Still TV3 New Day. It's time now for us to have an exclusive conversation with one man who's just been in Parliament for just about 3 years, going on his 4th, and already he's been able to sponsor about 17 private members, bill in Parliament. And so it's quite interesting that we're going to touch on this, and it all borders on human rights. And of course, a number of it also borders on the issues concerning women, their health, Labour Act concerns as well, and even other very interesting topics. So we're going to be speaking to him now. He's Francis Xavier Sosu Esq. He's a Ghanaian lawyer. He's also a politician. In fact, he's the MP for Medina constituency and went into Parliament after the 2020 elections to represent the people of Medina. But most importantly, he's a human rights lawyer and activist, and he joins us in the studio. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to see you as well.
Yeah,
How's Parliament going?
I think it's going quite well. It's been quite challenging. 136, 137 MPs from each side. So mostly things are a bit contentious, but I think it's been so good so far. Are
you enjoying the experience?
I think I'm enjoying the experience. I mean, you have high moments, you have low moments, but I think by and large, it is expected of a democracy. I mean, Parliament is derived from the French word parler. We go there to talk and share ideas. And so I think so far, I would say, as far as my expectation of parliamentary representation is concerned and what I perceive to be the role of a member of Parliament, I think so far, so good.
So far, so good. Yeah, no shocks.
Forward. No, I think the first shock was the first day in Parliament, which was the 7th January 2021, where we had all the drama in the election of the Speaker. But since then, it's been fairly balanced.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it's quite good.
You've been pretty busy. 17 private members' motions or bills. I mean, that's unbelievable.
Well, that is correct. I mean, we've been really, really busy because rising from activism as, first of all, as a human rights practitioner in court, chasing after wrongful convictions, chasing after people who are violated, whether they are children or women and all that, and fighting for persons with disabilities and finding myself in the position of, a decision table. So I asked myself, it's not enough now complaining that we don't have adequate laws protecting people, but you should be able to translate your activism into policy, right? Because activism and all the noise without being at the table of policy means nothing. And so now that I have the opportunity to be at the table of policy, as many of these ideas and policies I feel I can, lead or push, that's what I've been doing, and that's why I've been really busy. And I'm glad that we've been able to work on death penalty and abolish death penalty.
Yeah.
At least 17 bills, 3 of them passed, one with a presidential assent, which abolished the death penalty. We have the anti-witchcraft bill that is supposed to protect women, vulnerable women, aged women. The president is yet to assent.
Well, he's given his reasons why he will not assent.
I think his reasons are unreasonable.
The fact that he uses Article 108 of the Constitution
because Article 108 does not even apply to the president, because Article 108 applies to the Speaker of Parliament or the one presiding at the time the bill is taken. Because it is in the mind of that person when the bill has a financial implication, then the person will rule that you can't take the bill. But once the bill passes, it becomes an act of Parliament. So the president is under a duty to assent to that act of Parliament and not be giving reasons with Article 108. In fact, if anybody is of the view that Article 108 has been breached, the appropriate thing is a person to go to court to test the law. It's not for the president to put himself in the position of reviewing the work of Parliament. The president cannot review the work of Parliament because Parliament is an independent institution of state, just as the executive. And so I think the president is getting that wrong. And I'm hoping that in the spirit of the fight for the right of women, in the spirit of the International Women's Day we just celebrated, it will be to his own advantage, that it will be one of his legacies as a president who also believes in human rights, to sign this bill before his term eventually ends. So there's still opportunity for him to do that. And I am honestly looking forward for him to do that before, 7th December 2024.
I mean, it wasn't just the anti-witchcraft bill that he spoke about. It was also the Armed Forces Amendments bill that you had also pushed, and it was passed by Parliament. And so in that case where you were hoping that the president was sent to the bill where it says that we're replacing death penalty with life sentence, does it then not give credence to Article 108 where it says that if it's not from the president and it's going to put a strain on the consolidated fund where you have to withdraw from it to take care of these people who'll be in prison, then he doesn't see why he should sign it?
Not so, because in the first place, that would be double standard, because there are two laws that have been passed.
Okay.
The criminal amendment that abolished the penalty for crimes under the Act 32, that has a presidential assent.
Yes.
Is the reason why even when people were convicted for murder in the Major Mahama case, they were sentenced to life, because the law is in force. Now, the Armed Forces Act, coincidentally, has never been applied. You know, the two laws, the criminal amendment, all persons on death row were charged under the criminal amendment. That has been signed.
Yeah.
The Armed Forces has never been applied before. So it doesn't add up, because the Armed Forces Amendment clearly, beyond the fact that it has never been used before, the principles are the same. And when you do the fiscal impact analysis of both laws, you realize that for the last 30 years, Ghana has not executed anybody. What it means is that the people are there technically on life imprisonment. And every prisoner in Ghana is fed with 1 cedi 80 pesos a day.
Exactly.
And it applies to all of them. And so there is no effect. In fact, you have nothing to lose. So I think that the president really maybe came in belatedly. I'm sure he wishes that these bills were actually laid by himself. Except that, you know, and that is a challenge I have in Ghana. Sorry, there are many courses. There are many courses that people must take leadership for. They don't take leadership until somebody takes leadership. And then they want to be the people to be hailed for the work of other people. So that's a challenge. But I think that the president still has a golden opportunity. For example, all these 17 bills you just mentioned, there are a number of them that the government can take over. For example, NHIS for persons with disability, mental, like 5% employment of persons with disability, mental health conditions to be covered under NHIS, cancer in children, tumor in children, victims of sexual violations. These are all things that the president can actually, the gender ministry, for example, can take over. Like leave for extension of maternity leave for women, paternity leave, these taxes on parts. You don't need anyone to wait. And you see, usually when we institute prime members' bills, for me, as an activist, it is also a tool to prompt government to say that, look, these are critical areas that you should take advantage of. And so it's not necessarily like a bill that I seek to by all means lead until it passes. But I'm expecting that government will respond positively to those bills. You know, at a point in time, the president, reached out and said they wanted to take the death penalty. I obliged. Except that the condition was that if you can take it under certificate of urgency, I'm happy, because I don't want a situation where government takes over and government goes to sleep. Right? So it's both bringing activism into legislation. That is the kind of work I'm doing in Parliament with all these, social justice bills. So I think that the president is just not being completely honest with these aspects. These bills that have not been assented to yet. Okay,
but what does the law say? Because in cases where the president gives reasons for not wanting to assent to the bill. Now, what powers does Parliament have to go ahead and make it law? Because Nia Ikotu is saying that, then let's test it. Why not go to court if you can, to see how you can ensure that the president assents to it, or you can pass it into law, or what can Parliament do?
I think what Parliament can do is to rally to test majority, to override the veto of the president. But that may be a wild goose chase.
Why?
Particularly in the Parliament where you have 137, 136. Even in the first place, sometimes it amazes me how maybe by some divine intervention, I was still able to maneuver, to lobby, friends in Parliament, including Speaker, despite the polarized nature of the Parliament, to have these critical bills passed. Because there were people both in the majority and minority that supported, the death penalty abolition and then the witchcraft criminalization. And so sometimes it's amazing how we got this pass, but I think that rallying MPs to get like 2/3 majority to override the veto of the president may be a very difficult one. Because I think, because then you are saying that people in majority now are going to take a stance against their president.
Yeah.
That I don't think they may, even though that would have been in the interest of Ghana, but I doubt if they will do that. That's
interesting, actually. Yeah. But let's take it then to other issues, because concerning this issue about the private members bill, in this case, you're saying that the president does not apply to him with regards to 108.
That is correct.
But there are concerns that, for example, the anti-LGBTQ like this, if the president decides to go ahead to say that I will not be able to assent it, even though he has not made that statement, I'll not be able to assent it and uses 108, would that be justified?
I don't think that would still be justified. You see, the reason why I say it would still not be justified is that there may be provisions in the anti-LGBTQ plus bill that may have financial implication. My point is that those concerns are only raised when the bill is first brought to Parliament.
Okay.
Because the Constitution is very clear on those provisions, and that's Article 108 for the benefit of our listeners this morning, so we can educate ourselves. Article 108 provides, Parliament shall not, unless the bill is introduced or the motion is introduced by or on behalf of the President, A, proceed upon a bill, including an amendment to a bill, that in the opinion of the person presiding makes provision for any of the following. 1, imposition of taxation or alteration of taxation otherwise than reduction.
Yes.
So you see, because that's why my tax on parts, I said we're just reducing the taxes on parts. So this will not apply.
Yeah.
So I still could introduce those bills. 2, the imposition of a charge on the consolidated fund or other public funds of Ghana, or the alteration of any such charge otherwise than by a reduction. So in other words, the bill you are presenting to Parliament must impose a charge, a positive imposition of a charge, not by implication, not by its implementation. The bill itself must have provision that impose charges. Then it says that the payment, issue, or withdrawal from the consolidated fund or other public funds of Ghana of any money or of any monies not charged on the consolidated fund, or any increase in the amount of any payment, issue, or withdrawal. And then it said that imposition of remission of any debt. So the rest may not necessarily apply. So you see, what the Constitution is saying is that Parliament cannot proceed if the bill is actually imposing a charge. But if the provisions are not imposing a charge, then Parliament can proceed. That's number 1. Number 2, at what point can Parliament not proceed? Parliament cannot proceed at the point of the introduction.
Okay.
So if anybody has a reason to believe that a bill amounts to imposition of a charge, then you must challenge that at the time the bill is being introduced.
So then whose job should that have been the Attorney General?
Attorney General, the President of Ghana. I mean, they could go to court, the Supreme Court at the time of whatever, to seek a declaration that the bill that is being introduced has the potential to impose a charge, and so on and so forth. You don't sleep on your right. You don't go about, you see, for example, the Ministry of Finance, where were they when the bill was introduced? So did he know that it could have a financial implication? Where were they? Where was Attorney General? Where was the President of the Republic? Where were all the people who are now speaking and saying that the bill has a potential of imposing a charge? Where were they when the bill was first introduced?
Could same apply to the anti-LGBTQ bill?
Exactly, that's what I'm talking about. So at the time that the bill was introduced, where were they? Now you go to sleep. The bill has been admitted by the Speaker of Parliament, and it has been passed into an Act of Parliament. It doesn't lie in your mouth to now be crying that, no, this bill may impose a charge on the consolidated fund. Because when you do that, it means that the President is interfering with the legislative authority of Parliament, which is not allowed when there is separation of powers.
So where do you stand on this anti-LGBTQ bill? And I've heard you speak before. If you'd indulge me, maybe can I play an old video of something that you had said with regards to even before the first reading of the bill in Parliament? Take a look.
Absolutely. I mean, not only will it be a recipe for chaos, it could it could derail the country in several ways as well. Don't forget that already the sentiments and the kind of emotions associated with legislating against this practice is very high. It has very serious international consequences. I mean, I dare say that Ghana would definitely lose some benefits as a result of passing these laws. We are going to lose some.
Like what?
Well, I mean, it could come in form of donations and donors, because there are some donors that, as part of your human rights record, will look at how you treat minority class, and they simply define this category of people as people belonging to a minority class of sexual orientation, if you like, sexual orientation activists. Maybe you can put it in that.
We have a speaker who, when there's...
All right, so this was you back in 2021. This was,
correct.
I think, before the first reading in Parliament of the then anti-LGBTQ. It has undergone some amendments to a large extent. Do you still stand by these words, or have you changed your mind about the bill?
Well, it's not even about standing by a point or changing their mind on bill. You see, there are many people out there. I've seen many people play this video as part of either disinformation or misinformation or propaganda to simply say that Sosu endorses gays.
Okay.
Or Sosu is a gay promoter. Or Sosu is a gay rights activist. And I've made my point very clear. I mean, as a human rights lawyer and activist, I have never anywhere endorsed the practice of gay.
Okay.
Now, the reason is very clear. I'm a Christian.
Okay.
And my religious persuasion would not allow me to endorse sin any day, anywhere. Now, the question and the concerns at the time was whether criminalizing sin was something, a way to go by. And sometimes it's so strange that we are not being very honest with ourselves. Now, since the passage of the bill, we've had all kinds of either finance ministry, IMF, people saying all kinds of things. These issues that you are seeing today were the things that I was simply warning about, because I knew that that would be the reaction. So it's important for us to understand that, look, Ghana is a sovereign state. We have a right to take sovereign decisions as to which direction we want to go. But we must understand that just as we have a sovereign right to take those decisions, every other nation that we have international relations with would also have a right to take their sovereign decision as to how they deal with Ghana. And we must be very honest about these things. And for me, that was the position I took. And so I don't think that those positions have changed, because, I mean, the reality is what we have all seen today. One, I won't endorse gay practice because it's against my religion. I will never do that.
Okay.
Not only that, I represent a constituency that is very, very religiously diverse.
Yeah.
I mean, I have very good number of Muslims. I have very good number of Christians. And I preach the Bible. And the Bible is very clear that homosexuality is sin. It ends there for me. However, the nuances, the controversies, and the issues, they will continue to live with us.
But some of your constituents have complained, and they've said that the reason why you are not exactly for the bill is because they allege that you're being sponsored by some of these individuals who are involved.
How is that possible? You see, again, that's the misinformation and then the disinformation. Sponsored where? How?
So that's a lie?
Of course, absolutely.
Okay.
So, but what would be the sponsorship? So what is the content of the sponsorship? What is it? Is it in the form of money, car? What are the sponsorship? It's complete lie. It doesn't. I mean, where is the sponsorship? I wish if the sponsorship is somewhere, if somebody can show me where those sponsorships are, so I can go and look for them. But absolutely nothing like that.
So should the president assent the bill?
Well,
or do you think it needs to be amended again?
No. You see, that does not lie in my mouth to say.
Okay.
You know, as the deputy ranking member for the Constitutional Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, we were those who reviewed the bill, and we recommended its passage. And we recommended its passage because of the teeming number of Ghanaians that support the bill. Because at every point in time, You see, who are you leading? You are leading a group of people who have a particular set of morals, morality, some particular types of cultural expression. And if in this day and age, that is the direction of your people, it will be foolhardy to be fighting against the popular sentiment of your people. What would happen is that it is when all the emotions settles, or when the dust settles, that is where reasons will prevail against emotions. But in the midst of the dust, it will be foolhardy to want to say anything contrary.
When you say reasons prevail against emotions, in this case, I mean, there are arguments about the jail term, for example, that if you're found practicing or you're caught practicing, you're going to jail for between 3 months to 6 years or so, 6 months to 3 years. And then if you're seen promoting, then you're going in between 3 years and 5 years. And many have argued that that alone is not enough to deter people from engaging in it because it doesn't bring any form of information.
Well, I mean, you know, in recent time, I have even been talking about non-custodial sentences for misdemeanors. The whole question is that why would somebody go about and be promoting a particular sexual orientation? Why would you want to do that?
But they're activists.
No. So, activists for what?
For the LGBTQ plus community, are they not?
I mean, the question is that, look, you have a right to whatever you want to practice in the secret of your home. But you don't have a right to publicly express that. That is what it is in our law. In fact, as we speak today, whether the president has sent this bill or not, homosexuality is criminal in Ghana. We must understand that. Whether the president has sent that bill or not, we have section 104 of our Criminal Offences Act that says that any form of unnatural carnal knowledge, all the things that you do in your bedroom that include like blowjob, anal sex, all of them by law today are all prescribed. And so if something is prescribed under your law, by what stretch of imagination do you have a right to go about promoting that?
Counsel, you're a human rights lawyer.
No. So my point is that, no, you see, that is the law, unfortunately. You see, we must understand something. What is the position of Ghana's law today? The position of Ghana's law is that all natural carnal knowledge is criminal. And so, if it's just like it's like robbery, or you know, apart from robbery, we have robbery, we have like say defilement, we have robbery, defilement, we have rape. All of them are criminal under our law. You are saying that even though you are aware that these are criminal under our law, you can go about and promote it. See, that is, and so we should be able to get a fair distinction between your activism, because you cannot be an activist for a criminal offense under our law. You see, it's different. You see, people make a lot of mistakes. Now, when you say you are a gay rights activist and your concern is about the law of Ghana, maybe your activism would have been to decriminalize Section 104. That should be your activism point. And I think that was the historical activism point. And that is why persons like Professor Mills of blessed memory, that was the activism that was there. And he said that when he removed that law, it would amount to legalizing homosexuality. So he, under his watch as a president, will not legalize homosexuality. That was his position. Not only that, when it came to the current president, and he, I mean, unfortunately, strayed a bit and said that, oh, because there is no activism, that's why we have not yet legalized.
But later he did speak to
but my point is that, so my point is that the reason was that the whole activism was removal of Section 104. So that it then allows people to then go around to say that they can freely educate people about LGBTQ plus and whatever. But that law remains the position of Ghana. So nobody has a right currently under the laws of Ghana, whether this bill is signed or not, to go to schools, to classrooms, to places, churches, and seek to sexualize children. You cannot do that because it is criminal for you to do that. Because you are now promoting criminality. And so, until these laws are reviewed, you don't have the right to do that. Now, the consensus has been that, so now that we have not yet reviewed this law, must we go further to criminalize? See, Ghanaians, sometimes we are not able to properly divide. You see, when you read Bible says that we should try and properly divide the word of God. Let me properly divide this for you. There is a set of rights known as gay rights. Right? And I want to talk about gay rights activism. And that's the reason why when somebody's out there and say, Sosu is active, like is a gay rights activist, I wonder which platform that they've seen that activism. One, you must advocate for a positive law that recognizes the practice of gays, bisexuals, and all the plus. A law that recognizes them. That's number one. Two, you must have a law that recognizes their right to marry. A copulation. Three, you must have a law that recognizes their right to adoption. Four, you must even have a law that recognizes or that imposes penalties on people who discriminate positively against them. One, people who would not even marry them. In fact, in some countries, if you are a civil union person and somebody appears before you that male and male or female and female, and you refuse to marry them, you can even have criminal sanctions. Yes.
Where exactly?
Oh, there are. I mean, I don't have the evidence, but you see, but these are like the body of law that recognizes the various rights of LGBTQ plus group of people who are queer group, or what you may call in several settings as gender minorities or something. Yeah. Right? Now, the question is that, let's ask ourselves the honest question. Is that the current advocacy in Ghana? No.
What is the current advocacy?
No, I think the advocacy that was urged on Ghana by several diplomatic communities was the decriminalization of Section 104. Okay. I think that was the issue. That was the issue. And then coupled with the fact that, and I think that what might have even actually led to this whole movement that led to the full now criminalization of any form of LGBTQ plus expression was the fact that despite the fact that Section 104 had not been amended and removed and decriminalized, people were still going around trying to advocate and teach and do education for LGBTQ plus concerns. And that was a big concern because when a law has criminalized a particular conduct and you go around promoting or trying to educate people about that conduct, then what you are doing will be illegal because your law is contrary to that.
So at the moment, the way the bill is, do you also side with people who say that some aspects of it should be reviewed? For example, the parts where you go to jail if you're found engaging in that.
Well, in all honesty, I don't believe that somebody must go to prison because of their sexual orientation. I don't believe that.
So what should happen to them if...
I mean, there are several ways you can punish people, including the community sentence. Okay. Particularly in our country where community sentencing is a little bit... If you do a little bit of background education about community sentencing, it's like a community shame. And in our country, people, when you subject people to like community shame, for me, it's a bigger deterrence. Okay. Can you imagine if you are asked to go and then be cleaning like the public toilet or something for a particular conduct or expression that you have done, what that means to you, right? And so for me, I believe that any form of a misdemeanor, if the law captures this one as a misdemeanor, once it is a misdemeanor, a community sentence will not be a bad idea. But now listen, in those penalties, it's not only community sentence. Okay. So you have a community sentence, you have a fine, and then you have a custodial sentence. What must happen is that in all circumstances, judges must be given the opportunity to look at a community sentence. And then based on the set of facts, the judge can move from a community sentence into a fine or then a custodial sentence.
I see. Well, quick message from Honorable Sam George, by the way. He's still typing. He says that please tell Honorable Sosu that he doesn't appreciate the process of the introduction of gay rights. The body of rights he speaks about as gay rights starts with the decriminalization of Section 104. Then they start the demand for other rights.
Absolutely. But that's exactly what I said.
Well, let's move on. He said,
that is exactly what I said.
Saying he's in support of community sentences. How does that sit with stigmatization?
How? Like, say, if you are doing a community sentence, they'll be stigmatized against. Oh, no, but I think that, I mean, let's face it. Whether a person is in prison, custodial sentence, or doing community service, stigmatization will always
be there.
run with it.
So
Now,
that means that
now it will always be there. Now, let's again be very honest with ourselves. Let's have a very honest conversation here. Ghana does not have what we call conjugal rights when you go to the prison of Ghana.
Yes.
And because we don't have conjugal rights when you go to prison of Ghana, I have been to prisons, several prisons in Ghana. And in all honesty and before God and man, and I'm saying this before God and man because I serve God and I believe God and I love God, you can be a straight person and go to prison. After 7 years, 10 years, 17 years, 20 years, when you are released, you could possibly be a homosexual. The reason being that when you go to Insawam prison was made for 700 people.
Yes.
Today, people living in Insawam prison are more than 5,000 people. More than 5,000, and they are congested. People sleep on each other. And videos. And there are several researches that shows that even at Insawam prison, there's something what they call coping mechanism, where people uses their manhood, place it even in between two people as a means of coping.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and that is a reality. And so let's not close our mind entirely on what happens at the prisons as well. And I think I agree with Sam George, what he said.
Okay.
You see, and that's why President Mill says that I will not legalize homosexuality, because the edge at the time was to decriminalize the Section 104.
Okay.
Because once you remove the Section 104, then you open the floodgate of people now to begin to say that, okay, now I can go to school to now go and promote this, to go and do that, and do that, and do that. Yes.
Let's move away from this and talk about the extension of the maternity leave and parental leave as well, because that's also one thing that you're championing. Initially, you had wanted to move it from 3 months to 4 months.
Yes.
But then I understand that there's been a further extension to 6 months.
That's correct.
Tell us a bit about that.
Well, I think that came as a result of the stakeholders' engagement we had in Parliament, our chiefs, in fact, our queen mothers and other very senior people who showed up and made contribution, including the Trade Union Congress, the teachers' unions who showed up in Parliament, made a very compelling argument for women having 6 months maternity leave. In fact, primarily because the World Health Organization prescribes a 6 month exclusive breastfeeding.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for the 6 month exclusive breastfeeding, because I hear that it connects with the faculty, like the mental faculty, building of, the baby. And there are many babies who lose out when they don't have that exclusive breastfeeding. And that is not when the breast is fed through feeding bottles. We are talking about the natural act of breastfeeding a child. And so, and not every woman feels comfortable removing their breasts in their workplaces trying to feed their baby, especially when most workplaces do not even have a kind of nursery environment that allows mothers to comfortably take care of their baby. So if you have an exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months, then it makes sense to say that your maternity leave must be 6 months, at least the minimum. And then there were also suggestions that we must have like maternity protection provisions. Okay. Now the maternity protection provisions are supposed to protect women, because currently there are women, once they become pregnant, then their bosses are already planning how to replace them. Yeah. And when women go for interview with their colleague men, the first issues, the employer is now thinking whether this woman is going to get pregnant very soon, or what's going to happen when she becomes pregnant. And it's not the woman's fault that she becomes pregnant. Yeah. And so if women impregnate the women, we cannot go back and take decisions that affect or negatively affect those women. And so I believe that any woman, once the woman becomes pregnant, from the time the woman becomes pregnant all the way, because you know the whole experience of the first trimester. Yeah. You know, and men and companies think that the women are just being unproductive, but it's their biological makeup. So right from the time they become pregnant until they deliver, and 6 months after delivery, it's a period that must be given special care and protection to women. And that is what this proposals and amendment seeks to do. And for fathers as well, you are proposing that at least fathers must begin to know that the traditional role of women giving birth is a shared responsibility. Fathers must play a role. I was there when my wife was delivering almost all our 4 kids. And sometimes you stand by the bed and you see the process through which you go before delivering. Then you know that fathers have a very critical role to play when their wives are pregnant until their wife deliver. And even the first 7 days, you know, sometimes you deliver and you have tears. if you have tears in your vagina, who will be the first person to be the one to attend to that? Sometimes it's your husband when he is with you, not your maid or your auntie coming from your village. And now even the traditional rules have changed. You will give birth and maybe your parents are also working somewhere. You will not get them to come to be with you to take care of this kid. So this is the whole thinking behind these proposals.
I see. Well, so how far are we with that at the moment?
Well, we just finished the pre-laying stakeholders engagement. So we are finalizing the draft for gazetting. Okay. And so that's where we are with that one.
I see. That's interesting. And then so after gazetting, then what?
Then we do the first reading and it will be referred to the gender committee.
I see. Well, we're looking forward to how that goes. I think that's also one of the brilliant bills that you are pushing as well. I wish we could go into all of them, but I know that, well, there's not enough time for that. But we'll do a part 2 of this conversation. What I want to find out, however, is that at the moment in your constituency, there's a gentleman who has said that he intends to run independent from within your party.
Well, I don't know whether it's within our party, because at least the evidence shows that he is not a party person. I see. Because indeed, if you're a party person, if you are disqualified in a vetting, your role is to appeal. Yeah. But that didn't happen. But he's still our brother. You know, I still treat him as a brother. And so, Zach, we are still inviting you home so we can work together for the benefit of the NDC. Remember that, you know, with all the challenges that we've had in this country right now, the least we want is any distraction. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama needs the full complement of everybody. And so we are welcoming you back home so we can work together. I can assure the people of Medina that I'm firmly on the ground. Okay. We just finished our market tours. The response was massive. Over the weekend, I was in 9 different churches. The responses are massive. People know that, you see, the Bible is very clear. The Bible tells us that it is only when the righteous is ruling that the nation, you know, grows. The nation is happy. And you see, when we talk about the righteousness in the Bible, it is not the righteousness of the world. It's the righteousness that is impacted by Christ. Okay. By believing Christ, accepting his message, being baptized for forgiveness of your sins, and being, sealed with the Holy Spirit. And if you look at the space, the one who fits into this space of righteousness that can redeem Ghana from the challenges that we are in, it is His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. All right. And also remember that in the book of Daniel 2:21, the Bible is very clear that, you see, God controls times and seasons. And it is God that enthrones kings and dethrones kings. And we are confident that with all the prayers that we are praying, His Excellency, God Almighty, definitely going to dethrone MPP and enthrone the NDC. And you will retain your seat here. And I'll retain my seat. Well,
let's see how that goes. But thank you so much for your time. I believe a part 2 of this definitely must happen, so we can go into the other bills as well. But it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Francis Xavier Sosu Esq. He is a lawyer and a politician. In fact, the MP for Medina constituency.
And I need to give my colleague Muslims like Ramadan Kareem. Okay. And so Ramadan Kareem to all our Islamic brothers. We pray that Almighty Allah will listen to your prayers and give us peace before, during, and after the general election. Assalamu alaikum.
Malaikum salam. Thank you so much, Francis, for speaking to us.